Yes, I have that kit as well.
What is
Oh,
this thing?
wow.
What
What
is
is
what?
So where'd you get the kit from?
Online.
Amazon?
I don't remember. So
Amazon.
Madam So?
bottom soles.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, Madam So.
Madam So. Yep, Madam So.
Nikki, what is this?
Let me see. Hmm.
Oh,
Turn it over. Turn it over.
wait a minute.
Let me see the book. Let me see the book.
I don't know, Honduras. You did that come with your
Yeah, she ain't yet.
quilting stuff?
Maybe I see the book, huh?
Read the book. Yes. I've never seen that foot.
I
That's the
don't
thing
know.
about those kits. There's some presser feet in there I've never seen. Let me see if there's any else I can show you that you may eventually want to get. Again, this is being recorded. What you got there, Tamari? Tamari has a walking foot, y'all. Okay, let's just put him out right now.
Can you put it closer to your camera, Tamara? Okay.
Yeah, put it closer to your camera.
Okay.
Tamari, that's a walking foot.
Okay.
And it allows you to stitch on delicate fabrics, knit fabrics, because the machine, let me get technical a minute here so you guys understand.
Okay.
You know the feed dog? The feed dog that does this?
Yeah.
The feet on here, okay? I've got to spotlight the, okay. So the feed dog that does this, okay? What it does, it goes really fast in one direction, okay? So fabrics that stretch can tend to be stretched out as it's going through, okay? So that's why if you're stitching a t-shirt or something, and once you get done stitching, you may see crinkles. That means because the fabric was being stretched as it was being pulled through with the feed dog. The walking foot creates what's called a differential, meaning it's pulling it through, but letting it stop long enough to take the stitch. So it's just doing like that. That's what the walking foot does. It slows it down so that it'll take its stitch and take it, a little at a time. And it's delicate and it goes through very nicely. People love walking feet.
Okay.
So tomorrow when you,
put
hey
it
guys,
on.
you put it on the same as you put on any other foot.
Really?
It's just got the mechanism. It's got the mechanism in the back that creates the differential movement.
Okay. And what's the white one on the table again?
It's a Teflon foot.
Teflon.
Yes. Okay. And I'll show you two more the three more. I'll show you three more that you should consider. All right. This is a invisible zipper foot. You may have this already.
Okay, I have that one.
Okay. It's got the grooves on the bottom so that it stitches an invisible zipper in nicely. And Honduras, I'm sure you have one of these. This is a 1/4 inch foot. Okay. This has a gauge on the side so that you're only stitching a 1/4 inch. Quilters use this foot, but I also use it. I don't quilt. And you notice it does not have a wide mouth because it's designed for quilting and staying in that one spot. And Terry, we use this on bra making too. Okay, Nicole, Sue, we use this on bra making.
It doesn't have a line on it, but here it is.
It doesn't have what?
The lines, but it's
there you go. Yeah, that's it. It doesn't have the gauge on the side, but it's the same, right?
Right.
Okay.
Let me see, yeah, Nicole.
No, that was Honduras.
Oh, okay.
I think this is
okay. Tamara, you got one too. Nice, nice. Terry, you have one. Okay.
Miss Nikki, what's this piece?
Okay, I have that. That is how you're going to use that to keep a button stable, so you can stitch a button on, which is a complete waste of time. Just do it by hand. All right. It takes longer to get that thing set up and break 2 needles. And it does.
Not
To
even
just
worth
stitch it by hand. It's not worth it. Okay. All right. The last one, guys, this is a rolled hem foot. All right. I love this thing. And you see the circle in there, the fabric rolls around, and as it stitches, it lays down and gets a beautiful hem. Okay. You can get these on my Amazon page. You can get 3 different sets of them. Okay.
Is that the same as a roller foot, or is this rolled hem foot?
Rolled hem.
What's
Rolled
a roll?
hem foot.
Oh,
Roller foot. I don't know.
Well, I don't.
Okay. All right. Let's make sure you go ahead. I'm sorry.
Nikki, can I check one thing with you real quick?
Yeah.
Great. That that foot, can you see it? Am I on?
Oh, that's a
I
zipper
can't see
foot.
you.
That is a zipper foot, right?
It is. It is a zipper
I can't
foot.
see you.
It's the
Excellent.
whole. Okay, I'm sorry. Let me spotlight you, Sue.
There we go.
That is a zipper foot. And guys, this is an older machine. It doesn't
Oh.
just snap on. The whole shank comes off. So she has to undo the screw and fit it back up and put the screw back on. So that's how they used to do them. Feet came with the whole shank. It's like that on Bernina's today. The whole shank is there. But yeah, that's a zipper foot. I would love to sew with that because it's so thin. See how thin it is?
Oh, sorry.
It's gone.
Okay. Look, while we enjoying her view, she gonna turn us off.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's a great foot.
Silver. Wow.
Yeah,
It has an actual roller. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at this.
there you go. Thanks for sharing that, Sue.
You're welcome.
See, Nikki?
Okay. What is
You see the
that?
roller? It actually rolls. It's a roller in there.
I have no idea how. I think it's for quilting. You think?
I'm going to look it up.
It was in that kit, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
This was my
All right.
last.
Good.
There's a lot of stuff out here.
That is an embroidery attachment, T.
Okay.
So when you have, do you have the whole embroidery attachment for your machine?
Me?
No, T.
I'm
Tamari.
not sure.
No, you would know. It's about this big. You take the whole front of your machine off and put it on.
Is it this?
No, that's the table.
Oh.
That's the table.
Okay.
If you were embroidering your machine, and it may still do some stitches, and it just allows it to do like this and make pictures. That's what that foot is. Okay. Okay. Any other questions about anything that's with your machine that you don't understand? Anything that's in that little bag in your machine?
Oh, wait a minute. One sec.
We'll be doing zipper feet and buttonholes tomorrow.
I tried. My machine doesn't have my my feet anymore to them for some reason, and I went out and got a vertical needle zipper foot, but I don't know if it goes on my machine at all.
Oh, well, that's the shank attachment, just like Sue's. Turn it. Let me show you how it goes. Turn it. Yeah, right there.
Oh,
Okay, it goes just like that. The foot goes on the fabric. So you see those that little arm at the above?
right here?
No, right. That's a little arm that wraps around the shaft. That's how you put it on to your machine.
Okay.
So practice on that before tomorrow so you can put it on and use it. Okay.
Okay. Thank
All right.
you.
YouTube has every sewing machine ever made and their manual online.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. And somebody said, let me show you how to do this.
And you can also download your manuals from the people that
From the company. You're right, Sandora.
Okay.
Huh?
Yeah, you're right.
You can download the manual on your computer.
Yeah, your manual
the book.
can be downloaded.
Okay, what's this one?
Oh, that is a
I'm sorry.
edge foot. It's an edge foot. You see the little bar in the middle? The little bar in the middle allows, there's a stitch on your machine that allows you to, you know what the surge edge looks like, guys, when you use a serger? It's the same kind of stitch. And that little bar in the middle of that foot allows that stitch to happen. But it's a computerized stitch in your machine. And you got to find out which one that is.
Because it'll tell you which foot to put on to use that stitch. That's the good thing.
Yeah.
Because otherwise,
You're right. Does everyone have a screwdriver?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So next, needles. Does anyone struggle with taking the needle off and putting another one on?
Yes, indeed.
You do? Okay.
And just so you know, I put a question in this chat for you.
Okay.
Oh, let's go check the chat.
You put a question in the chat, Sue?
I'm sorry, I sent it directly to you. Should I send it to everybody? I'll put it to everybody.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
got it.
Okay.
Fix
So
it.
needles, you got regular needles, you got universal needles, you've got ballpoint needles. Needles started getting marketing names like Jersey, it's still a ballpoint needle. Stretch is still a ballpoint needle. Okay. Universal needles can go on any fabric. Microtex came out, which is my favorite. Microtex came out, and they are very strong metal with a small size, 70 and 80. And they are very, hey, Tamari, how are you? So Microtex, I buy Microtex needles by the hundreds because I use them so often. And I use them on everything. So if you want to get a lot of needles, here, I'm sorry, put it on the other screen. If you want to get a lot of needles, just order a box like this. Sometimes it'd be like $40 if they're on sale or something.
I can't see you.
Look at my table where the machine is.
Wait a minute, let me get back. I'm trying to get to the gallery.
Hold on, I'll pin the video again like I did before. Okay. Yeah, so these are needles. They look normal, but they're very strong. They have a nice point on them. Okay. When a pattern, a fabric, anything calls for a specific needle, okay, go for that needle first. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm trying to get back on. Let me.
1 second. Okay. Y'all hear me okay?
Great.
All right. My earphones just died. Okay, so when you're faced with a different fabric and you're thinking, I need to use a ballpoint, maybe a pattern says I need to use a ballpoint or universal or particular needle, that's fine. Start with that needle, but test every needle you have to say, machine, fabric, what do you want? Ask your fabric what it wants all the time. There is no hard and fast rule that says you have to use that needle with that fabric. Yes, knits require a ballpoint needle because a really sharp needle can pierce the fiber and create a hole. That can happen, okay? But maybe the density of the fabric or the lycra in the fabric doesn't want a ballpoint needle. It wants a sharper needle. So always, always, always test your fabric and say, what do you want, fabric? What do you want, machine? Okay. So that's how you make sure you got the right needle. If you stitch a test stitch and you're happy with that stitch and it looks good, that's the needle you're going to use for your project. That cool?
When you say,
right,
what?
Go ahead.
When you say ballpoint, does that come 90-14 or it can come in other sizes as well?
Yeah, so here's ballpoints, 9014 and 9016. And 8011.
What about the 7511? It's
Well,
8011?
typically you're getting smaller. The
Uh-huh.
smaller you get, the more fine point you get. So it can no longer be a ballpoint if it's that small.
Okay. And
Okay.
you said, I've never heard of 8011, but I need to. What is this?
What is that? Now I'm showing you a package that has 8011 on it. Wait a minute, I can't. Okay, this one has universal and ballpoints in one. This one is 80s microtext.
Okay.
Got it?
Oh, but that don't mean it's the same thing because it looks like that.
No, you just got to look at the numbers.
It says, I can see.
But what you'll do, Sundar, is when you start sewing the same thing over and over again, you'll know what kind of needle you need.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, and if you sew the same thing all the time, those are the needles you'll be buying.
You know, when you're new, you tend to buy so much stuff that I have everything on here from a heavy duty to a universal. I have so many different kinds. I have Oregon, Singers. Is it Smiths?
Smets.
I have Gross Becker. I have so many different kind of
You
needles.
got Gross Becker?
Yeah,
Those are good needles. You need to stick with those.
Oh, the guy who fixed my machine, he gave them to me.
Okay.
I didn't buy them.
Okay. All right. So let's move on. Does everyone have a screwdriver to take or a key, a little round key with a hole in it and a flat edge where you take your needle out and put another one in? Does anyone struggle with changing their needle?
Yes.
Who's that?
Me.
So why do you struggle with that?
Because
different.
I guess it's because I like to use the threader, and if you don't get the needle in there exactly right, it will not work. So I guess
Exactly.
Can I get it in there? Yes.
That's exactly right. It will not work if you don't get it in there correctly.
So maybe that's not an issue then, huh?
No, it's not. You're putting it in. Just put it in. Make sure you're putting it in tight.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you're holding the needle up with one hand and making sure it's all the way up to the top and screw it in tight. Cool. I have a YouTube that I'll also send you about needles, and but Smets has a really good guide on needles that you can look at and see what those little yellow bands mean and all of that. Okay, it's a lot of detail. When you in a cadence of sewing and sewing all the time, you'll be able to say, these are the needles I like. Okay. Okay, so Sue is saying, can you speak about some needles which are inserted with the eye front to back, and those are inserted. Sue, those are just the machines, the older machines. That's all that is. Okay. Now, when you have a machine that has a needle that goes from left to right,
I'm listening.
your thread goes in the left and out the right. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
You are welcome. Okay. All right. What other questions do we have at this point? Okay. All right, cool. So let's start looking at stitches. Okay. Let me give you some tips on how to practice your straight stitching. And it's really simple. It's really simple. Practice on paper. Okay. Take your
Practice on paper, or you can practice on muslin. Put lines on the paper and practice stitching. No thread. Take thread out of the machine, take the bobbin out, and put the paper in and practice and see, play a game with yourself and see how straight you can stay on the edge of the paper. Okay? Do the same thing with a circle.
I don't have any paper up here.
A sheet of paper, take a circle. This is like teaching yourself how to drive. Remember when you first started driving and you had to make sure you kept the car, you did the wheel like this, right? Now you know how to drive and you just take the wheel and you just turn it just a little to get in the other lane, right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing with sewing on a curve. Okay, you're just turning it, letting the machine. The feed dog is the tires to the car. The tires are driving straight, okay? But you want to turn them ever so slightly. All right, so keep your presser foot. I'll do it now. Let me get my foot back on here. Okay, put the piece of paper in the machine, lower the needle right on the line, okay? And you're going that way, right? Lower it, lower your pressure foot. Go slowly. I got thread in here. Go slowly. And just stay on the line.
Well,
And practice.
It won't hurt if there's thread in it.
No, it's not hurting my machine because it's sewing something. But yeah, I want you to go faster, you know, when you're practicing. Okay. All right, see? Now I've got thread on there, but what you want to do is focus on keeping the needle on the line, and you're getting your hands used to just doing this so slightly. Okay. Now, when you're sewing a neckline, a sleeve, you know, whatever you're sewing, you're doing the same thing, but you have more control than you do when you have a piece of paper. You got more control because you're right here and you're putting it through, but you're doing like that. And you're, you know, sewing is like tennis. Whoever took tennis lessons before? Anybody? Just me?
Yeah.
I tried it.
Just me?
I tried it.
Okay.
That
All right.
finish right
So you'll agree because you sew, right? When you gotta hit the ball, you gotta hold the racket tight, okay? Hold it the right way, all right? You gotta bend your knees so slightly. You gotta stand the right way with your feet, okay? You gotta remember where you're gonna swing first, and you gotta keep you on the ball. How many things that I just mentioned you gotta remember before you even take a swing?
Multiple.
It's a lot. Like all that you gotta remember, okay? And then if you're exercising because you had a personal trainer teaching you how to play tennis, it's like, hold your core in and do this and do that, you know? So you got all these things you gotta remember. So when we're talking about stitching, you gotta remember there's the needle. You gotta remember the seam allowance. You gotta remember the numbers on the throat plate, which we're gonna talk about now. You gotta remember all that stuff. Then you gotta put your foot on the pedal and remember, don't go too fast. Go, you know, go fast enough. So that's what it is. Just learning how to, you know, stay engaged with all of those things that you have to remember to get a good stitch. Okay. Okay, let's get a piece of fabric. Just anything that you have. If you don't have it, that's fine. This is being recorded, so you can go over it. What I want to look at is the throat plate on your machine. If you're at your machine and it's threaded, we can, we can and practice this. The throat plate on your machine has numbers. Okay. It has numbers, and it depends on where your machine was made to determine what those numbers mean. Okay. Down here, you got 1/8, 3/8, and 5/8. Up here, you got 5/8, 1/2, and what is that back there? 1/8, yeah, 1/8, 1/2, I think. And then 5/8, okay? And then out here, you got more numbers. So sometimes you may have a machine that has different throat plates. Sue, do you have different throat plates for your machines?
Yeah, we do. Ours says, what does it say?
It just says 5, 4, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, you're supposed to make it up. You're supposed to make it up. Okay, so depending on where machines were made, what country, what manufacturer, they put whatever numbers. Do not worry about that. These lines are guides for you to sew. Now, this Janome and maybe the brother has the 1/2 inch and the 5/8, the 3/8, because the industry has taught us how to sew patterns, garment patterns with a 5/8 seam allowance. That's why they're there. You've got the 5/8 here, 1/8, 3/8, 5/8. Okay, so you do have these, but they are guides. So what I want you to do now is put a piece of fabric in your machine and let's stitch at a 5/8 seam allowance, meaning I want you to focus on the line that says 5/8. If it does not say specifically 5/8, if it doesn't specifically say 5/8, make it up. Pick a line that's out here, okay, that you can follow with the edge of your fabric, okay? And put your foot at the very beginning. Keep the line keep your fabric right at the edge where the line is. I don't want you to look at the needle. I want you to follow the line, keeping the fabric on that edge. That's how you stitch a straight line when you are making a garment and it has a seam allowance, because if you don't stitch on that seam allowance, what's going to happen is it's not going to fit because it was designed with that seam allowance. Bring this a little closer. All right, so think in your head, be your own sewing instructor, and always say to yourself, press the foot down and needle down. That tells your sewing machine that it's ready to sew. Okay? Press the foot down and needle down, and then just focus on staying on that line. Okay? And look, guys, let me give you another tip. If you put your hand down here, your tendency is to pull. If you put your hand down here and hold the fabric straight, you will be pulling. Okay? If you put your hand back here in the back, your tendency will be to pull. You do not want to pull. The feed dog is already pulling your fabric through by itself. That will eventually, over time, mess up the timing of your machine if you are pulling the fabric through. Okay, so if you hold your hand down here, your tendency will be to pull, okay, and you will be pulling against what the machine is trying to do, okay? So if you've been sewing a long time and that's what you do, try this. Guide your fabric from here. You got this, right? Everybody does this. Try to guide your fabric from here, okay? Because it's already up here.
Just guide it from here, not here. You can't guide it. The only thing you're doing down here is holding it. And again, your tendency will be to pull. So guide your fabric to where it needs to be here. That's the driving. Remember when we learned how to drive, our position was 10 and 2, right? Especially if you took driver's ed in school. It's the same here. And if that's what you haven't been doing, it may be awkward, especially if you've been sewing a while. It may be awkward, but try it, okay? And trust me that over time, your machine's timing will be off and you won't know why it's stitching so clunky and your stitches may be uneven. That's because your timing has gotten off from years or just time of, you know, pulling against the mechanism, okay? And then when you get to the end, do a backward stitch, needle up, pull your project out to the left. Who has a brother machine and every time you start stitching, the thread comes out and you have to thread it back?
Me.
I have
So Doris, you do, okay.
I've learned pull the
Hey,
thread.
Demetra. So the reason why that happens is when you pull your project out, looking at my table, pull your project out, pull it all the way out to the left, past the machine and cut right here. You need more thread in the end. And when you do your cut right here on the side of your machine, put it back. Okay, so if you take it out, here, I'll do it again. Okay, I'm pulling it out. If you do your cut right here at the side of the machine, that's still too short. Sometimes I'll take it and pull it out just a little more, then cut it, okay? Or I'll make sure I go off the machine and cut over here because then it's long enough where it doesn't come out of the machine when you start stitching your next time, okay? Guys, I'm sorry, there's somebody trying to get in. Terry is trying to. Not Terry, Tony. And I know she was trying to come in. She can't find the Zoom. Okay, I got it. Okay. Okay, so everybody okay with seam allowance and what your throat plate does? Okay, no struggles there. Okay. What about your straight stitching and curve stitching? Any questions I can answer there?
You gave the analogy of driving, and I think I'll end up with a DUI the way my straight stitching is. It's ridiculous.
Practice.
I'm watching the 5/8 and either my vision is completely, but there's a curve here. I mean, it really took a turn.
No, it didn't. You it's a straight edge. Oh, you folded it over and was stitching on it?
Yes.
Okay. And when you first started learning how to drive, how long did it take you to get really good and comfortable with the car?
I get it. It took a while.
Right. It took a while. But you had to keep getting in the car. Y'all remember we learned how to drive? You knew you was nervous and you didn't know what you're doing, but you knew
you had no choice. You had to get in the car and drive,
Yes.
even though you were nervous. Even when your dad said, "Come on, you drive," like, "Oh, what is this?" Right? But you had to do it, and I had to learn how to drive a stick.
Oh yeah.
And I just wasn't gonna let it beat me. It was Super Bowl Sunday, and I was bored out of my wits because my boyfriend had invited some people over. All his boys, they were in the living room watching football. We had all this stuff and everything, and me and my daughter were just sitting there like, and I didn't know how to drive a stick that well. And I just snuck out of the house. I said, "Come on, we get in this car," and I did it. I just kept kept going. So yes, it's practice. Keep sewing. Keep sewing.
I like
Okay.
this. I like this with the paper though. I'll definitely be doing that.
Yep, do that. Keep going on there. Okay, curve stitching, the curved edges. Practice, guys. Practice on that so that you can, get good with managing the fabric. That's what it is.
That's where
Okay.
I broke the most needles, is trying to curve. So
How do
somehow
you break them? On pins or what?
my when the fabric bunches up underneath,
Oh, okay.
Well, I shouldn't say, I broke like 2 needles, and both cases were me trying to follow a curve and the fabric bunching up and getting too thick for the needle. And I
Yeah.
think I was doing what you're saying too, like over helping the fabric through. So
Exactly. Yeah, that happened. I broke 2 needles just yesterday. Don't worry about it. Really, just that's why you need to have a lot of needles, because you will. What happens is, Tamari, in that example, I was talking to another student this morning about this. A really sharp needle. Here's a really sharp needle, right? It's got a real nice sharp tip on it. If you stitch a pair of jeans with this, is that needle still going to be really, really sharp by the end? No, it's not. It's not, because it's been worn and worn and worn and worn and worn, right? It's been going through fabric, 1,000 times a minute, right? So the point is not as sharp. So eventually, if you get fabric that's bunched up, it's going to say, I can't do that. Right?
Yeah.
So if you, it's like, it's the fabric fibers are raw. They're rough. So, and you're asking that needle to do a whole lot of work. So don't worry about breaking needles. It was tired. Go to the next one. Okay. And guys, to be healthy and sustainable, keep your broken needles. Put your broken needles in a medicine bottle, and then when it gets full, dispose of it. Like, ask your nurse friend, where do they send their shards? This is the same thing. You don't want these getting out. You don't want your pets getting to them. I mean, this is, how long is this? This is a few months, maybe the past 6 months or so. And the little tips. So if a needle breaks, when a needle breaks, and it pops, it's going to pop this way. It's, because it's going, the motion is going that way. So when the needle breaks, it's coming this way. Be careful. It can go here, wherever. They get me right here all the time. Right in the chest. I can feel it, So be careful with how you're sewing, because if you do break a needle, you want to be careful. Okay. Girlfriend called me yesterday. She said, the needle went all the way through my finger. Do I need a tetanus shot? I'm like, no, girl, wrap it up and keep sewing. Because the needle, one of the needles is in here, went through my whole fingernail. Bam. Wow. And you get so close trying to do a really intricate part of the garment and it may slip or whatever, and your finger goes right in there. So I'm sure if, you know, whatever, you know, hazard you've had, that, you know, the casualties of that. But keep your broken needles safe so that they're not in regular trash or anything where, you know, you can step on it again later. Okay.
Question about needles.
Yes.
So the sharp ones go through, I mean, with a ballpoint too, but ballpoint tend to like push the material to the side, or does it go through like the needle? If that makes sense how I'm asking.
Okay, a ballpoint is designed to go through knit fabric, which is coils like this. They're coils. So a ballpoint just goes through the coils.
Okay.
A universal needle with a sharp point pierces through the weave.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So if a sharp needle goes to a knit, what it can do, it can puncture one of the coils and create the hole. That's the meaning behind ballpoint needle versus a universal.
Okay. Gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah.
Elastics. Who am I talking to? Terry, Nicole,
Who is it?
Sue. Elastics. Tamari. He's making bras, y'all. But obviously I can't invite him to our classes, right? So I teach him privately. So elastics wear out a needle. They will wear out a needle. I change my needle every 2 bras, or unless I break it. Every 2 bras I change my needle because it's not sharp anymore. You know how much we're going over elastics and that duoplex that we stitch on. So different fabrics treat or behave differently with your needles and everything. So again, buy them by the bunch so you can have some. You don't want to be get ready to start a new project and look like, oh man, I don't have any needles, or you break your last needle. Okay.
Is that 100 pack?
This is 100.
Okay, and that's on your. So, what should I get 100 of the? Are those stretch?
No, this happens to be a Microtex needle. They're all the same because I use a Microtex on everything.
So I don't need stretch needles.
Yes, you do need them. I have stretch needles. I'm just saying this is my go-to needle.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a ballpoint needle. But sometimes, Tamari, with the fabrics that we use for lingerie, it needs a pointier, stronger needle.
Okay.
Elastics definitely need a sharper needle.
Okay, and they are on your site, you say?
Yes, they're on my site. Okay. So let me check in with somebody who I haven't talked to. Tamari, you okay?
Yep, I'm good.
Thanks for coming. Leslie, I know you came in a little later. You have any questions about anything?
No.
Okay. Miley?
I'm here. I don't have any questions. I realized that it was Eastern time and not Pacific Standard Time, so I'm doing this from work.
Okay, and I'm recording it, so everyone will get it. So you can follow along and, you know, catch any tips. Okay. Denitra, how you been?
I've been good. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thanks for coming. Are you gonna be here the whole weekend?
Yes, and thank you for having this because I really needed it.
Good. I'm glad. Okay, guys, let's. If you don't have any more questions about the machine, let's move over to tools and supplies. Okay.
Let me see. See how this looks.
I need this light.
I don't need it, right? One day I'm gonna have a fancy studio, y'all. One day. Okay, let me move all my stuff around. Pencil and paper, yeah, you always need that. Okay, Terry just asked a question. Somebody read that question to me, please.
How often do you get your machine serviced?
Never.
Okay. Hey, Nikki,
Yes.
my son had a question with our older machine, if you could touch on it.
Okay.
Why would a person, he pointed to the zigzag, which is very clear on the older machines. Why would a person use a zigzag stitch?
On stretch fabrics and elastics. Okay. A zigzag stitch allows the fabric to go, have movement. A straight stitch is going to keep it right there. Okay. But if it's a stretch fabric, leggings, swimwear, activewear, baby clothes, items like that, you need a stretch stitch.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All of your stitches, guys, play with your stitches on your machine. Just play with them. Get your fabric and just start, like, what does this stitch do? And stitch it. And if you have a white piece of muslin like this, do the stitch and write down. I like this. What is it? Write down what it is. Okay, just play with your stitches. Zigzag stitching is a great question. So zigzag stitching is for stretch fabrics, not necessarily knits, depending on the garment or what have you. Bras, definitely, lingerie, activewear, a pair of leggings, you want to do a zigzag because you want those stitches to move with you. Because if you do a straight stitch and it doesn't want to move with you and your body makes it move, what happens? A hole. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, I'm glad you brought up stitches. Does anyone have a question about stitching? Any stitches that are on your machine? Anything you don't understand?
Sorry, I had one other one.
Okay.
With our machine, the stitch length goes from 6 all the way up to 25 or fine. Why is that? Why would you have different stitch lengths?
It goes from 6 to 25. That's not a stitch length. 2.5.
I'll make it quick.
2.5.
Maybe it does. Maybe it is
There we go.
2.5.
Can you see that?
2.5.
It's
Yeah.
2.5.
Because there's a dot above it.
Okay, great question. All right, so stitch length is, so your stitch, the number of stitches in an inch or the number of stitches per minute it just depends on what the manufacturer is. We stitch, typically a standard stitch is 2.5, okay? That's 2.5 stitches per rotation that the machine makes. And I don't think it's in an inch. What the heck they said? I can't remember, but it's 2.5, 2.5 stitches, okay? So when you lengthen that stitch, it does a couple of things. It relaxes the fabric. The fabric, a 2.5 stitch may be too tight for a piece of fabric. So you can lengthen it maybe to a 3 or a 3.5 so that the fabric will relax. Remember the part about ask your machine what it wants when you're testing a new project? If the stitch looks too tight, lengthen it, okay? And those of you that have a machine that have a dial, that's really easy because it doesn't even have to be 2.5 or 3. It can just be a little bit, okay? But if it has definite numbers, yeah. And if it goes all the way up to 6, that means that stitch is going to be wider, okay? It's going to take more leaps. A really wide stitch is a basting stitch. On my, I think I put in the Facebook group, the sewing vocabulary.
I have a question about stitch length.
Okay.
My question is so say I'm starting off at a specific stitch length and then I want to, increase the length. That's when I like get issues. Do I need to readjust the tension when I do that?
Okay, give me an example. So you're at
So
2.5 and you want to
say I'm
go up
putting
to
on,
what?
yeah, say I'm putting on a zipper and that one, I'm doing whatever stitch length and then I want to top stitch after I've attached the zipper. So then I increase it to like 3 or 4 to get that longer stitch. It gets all wonky.
Okay, that's too wide. It's
Okay.
too long. To top stitch, don't go any further than 3.
Okay.
Okay. Do you change your thread? Do you use a top stitch thread?
I don't. I just keep moving along. Should I change it?
No, you can. That wasn't my point. Yeah. So you can change it, but I was saying if you were using a top stitch thread and you were trying to go to 4, that's too much. A top stitch thread is heavier than you're trying to go to 4. So yeah, it'll get wonky. Okay. So if you're using a top stitch thread, stay at 2.5. Depending on what it looks like, you could go to 3 because this top stitch thread is heavier. So this is just a tip for your top stitching because it sounds like that's what you want. But yeah, there's no need to go beyond a 3 top stitching on a zipper because then it will get wonky because the needle is taking too far of a leap. Does that help?
Yep. Thank you.
Cool. Tony.
Hi.
Hi, honey. I'm glad
How
I
you?
got you in here.
Good. How everybody doing?
Everybody's good. You know, some of these people, Sundoris is here and Tamori and Denitra, you know several of these people.
Well, that's good because I needed a refresher course again.
Okay. All right, guys, let's go through this a little bit. This is some of the ABCs of your stitches. All right. Here's basting stitches. This was done with my machine. This is a 6. So Sue, your machine goes way up. Today they only go to 5. Whose machine stitch length goes beyond 5? Yeah, everybody has a machine that goes to 5. So Sue, if yours goes up to 6, that's a really wide stitch and it's a basting stitch.
Gotcha.
I'm gonna spotlight my table again so we can go over.
Okay, here we go.
Okay. Here's basting stitches. Here's zigzag stitching. Okay. This is a regular zigzag. Your stitch width works on zigzag also because that's what it is. It's how wide. When your stitch width is on 0, that's a straight stitch. Okay. This is a 3-step zigzag. It gives even more flexibility with the zigzag because it takes its time and does 3 steps this way, 3 steps that way, 3 steps this way. Okay. So there's your zigzag. Here's a hem, a regular hem. I folded it up. I folded the very edge up a quarter, then I folded it all the way up an inch, and I top stitched, right? Yeah.
That's just a regular stitch?
That's just showing what it looks like, what a hem is called. That's a hem.
Yeah,
like,
it's a regular stitch.
Like.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Here's binding. This is what you buy in the store or you make yourself. And I put it on the edge and it's already folded. So you just attach it to the edge, pin it or clip it and stitch right on the edge. And you're going to catch both sides and stitch all the way down. And it binds the edge for whatever reason. You can do this with the inside of garments that aren't lined. You could do it on the bottom edge of a hem and turn it up and stitch down. It's functional, but it's also decorative also. Here's quilting. This is what quilting is, in case you didn't know what it is. It's just cross straight stitching. Okay, that's becoming quilted. Now, if you are making the top of a quilt, all the decorations, all the little pieces go together, that's one thing. actually getting it quilted is the second thing, because you've got a piece of fabric here and the decorative piece of fabric here. There's batting on the inside, and then you sandwich it all together and you quilt it down. But all the pieces that you put together to make the decoration, that's a quilt top. The quilt back is another fabric, and then it goes to get quilted. See, y'all didn't know that, didn't? Because I didn't know. I'm like, what? You only do one part of it. Man,
Nikki,
okay. Yes.
so with those three, the quilting, the binding, and the hemming, you chose different feet per whatever you were sewing, correct?
No. All of these have the same straight foot, same regular foot that I have on my machine.
Okay.
Because I'm just doing a straight stitch. Nothing was weird.
Okay.
Even the zigzag. This is a hand stitch basting stitch, and this is a regular basting stitch. I'll show you where I change feet. I don't know if I have any examples of anything.
That's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, this is an understitch. You recognize this? This is a pocket, right? So when you put the pocket onto the side of the skirt, and there's the seam, you want to fold the seam down onto the pocket side and stitch the seam down. What that does is it allows the pocket to fold nicely and stay put when the garment gets made. It's understitching. Okay. Here is a facing. This is around your neckline. This is a piece of fabric that's the same curved edge as the neckline of the top, and it gets stitched on and folded down, and that's your facing. Here are the darts on the side of the garment. Okay. And of course, we'll have classes to do all this kind of stuff. Next year, I'm doing a dressmaking camp. Here are gathers, 2 threads stitched across a piece of fabric at a very wide stitch length of 5 or 6, depending on how far up your machine goes. This is a basting stitch, and then you pull the threads together and it gathers the fabric. Here are pleats. And you fold the fabric, press it, stitch across to keep it in place. Pleats. This is your seam allowance. When you stitch 2 pieces of fabric together, there's your seam allowance. Oh, that's another dart on one piece. Okay, here's what your fabric looks like. This is your selvage edge right here, the manufactured edge of the fabric. That's the direction that the grain goes. If the selvage is here, the grain of the fabric goes this direction. Diagonal is the bias, the cross grain. All fabrics woven will stretch on the bias because it's a weave, so it doesn't move either way. It doesn't go stretch either way. But if you stretch it on the bias, it's doing that. Okay, that's that. Now think about denim, how it's indigo on one side, dark blue on one side, and light blue on the underside. That's called the warp, and the underside is the weft. So there was just some ABCs of you know, some sewing terms. I've got that on the Facebook group. It's on fabric.com also, because I work with them. Any questions in this part?
Yeah.
Yep.
Quick question. Okay, you said the bias. I know that's bias tape. Was that the same as when you said the hem? The blue one back there that had the blue on the side?
Yeah, it's sometimes like when they package up
Binding, I'm sorry.
it's bias binding.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same. It's been cut and folded and prepared to be used as bias tape. Okay.
So did you make it, or
no,
did you
I
buy
didn't
it?
make that.
Do you
I
use a
bought
bias?
this.
They have a foot to do this, right? Because I have a hard
Yes.
time with that.
Yeah.
Hard doing that.
I know it is hard. It's easier to do it manually, Sandoris. It really is. It's
Okay.
those feet are. I mean, it takes a lot of practice, and sometimes it's engineering. It's like, okay, that's supposed to work. Sometimes it doesn't, but learn how to do it manually first.
Okay.
Then you'll understand what the machine is trying to do, and maybe that'll help you make the machine do what you want.
Okay, I'll practice that.
Yeah, just practice it. See, back in the day, we didn't have all those fancy things.
Now what I do is make the edging an inch wider and just fold it over twice, and it's easier that way than me trying to. Well, if you only can do the edging, I guess you can't do that. But I make the mug rubs because that's hard to do.
Yeah. Okay, that's Nicole saying. Let's see. Okay. I'm looking in the chat just to see if we need anything. How often do you get your machine service? Okay. I maintain my own machine, watch the tutorial. There you go. Yep. Yep. You guys can answer each other's questions. You know, I guess I have never had to, I don't know, I've been sewing for so long, I know what to not do. You know what I mean? Like when we were, let me give you a good example. Who was making masks? Everybody? Everybody made masks. Were you making the mask with the pleats on the sides?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So we were making different kinds, but if you were making the mask and the pleats on the side, you were putting, okay, 100% cotton is very rough on needles, okay? Because it's really strong, right? And it's got a tight weave. That's why we were making masks out of 100% cotton, because it got a really tight weave so that it could ward off bacteria, okay? But your machine hated making masks, especially going over those pleats over and over and over and over and over again. Okay, so yeah, a lot of machines were getting serviced because they were like, dude, really? Stop. So once I realized what I was doing to my machine, I changed machines, and then I stopped making a pleated kind. So, you know, getting a machine service is based on what's needed. I've got several machines, so if I'm gonna do something rough and tumbly, I'm gonna go to another machine rather than my primary machine. How we doing on time, y'all? 5. Okay, we good. Okay, let's go over some of the tools. And again, just like the presser feet, get some of your tools out and say, what is this? Or if you've got a great tool that you want to share with other people, let's share it, okay? I'm gonna show you my favorite tool in the whole wide world, and I wouldn't be as good as I am if I didn't have this. It's a seam gauge.
Wow.
Yeah, I love this thing. I use it. I have several of them. I don't want it out of my sight. It's like reading glasses hanging around my neck.
Oh, wow.
Okay. I love this tool. It's a seam gauge. It helps me get accuracy, and you know, I just think it's a great tool, and it's small enough to be where I need it to be. Okay. All right, so that's the measuring tools. I like the ruler that you can see through. Okay, this ruler is 2 inches by 18, and I can always do my measurement, my 1/2 inch, you know, my 1 inch, 3/4, or what have you, but use a ruler that you can see through. And then your regular ruler, of course, whatever ruler you need. This is my curve ruler that I use when I'm making garments and having to draft different lines or take in, make adjustments. Okay. It's a French curve. If you have anything metal, Sue, do you have any metal rulers?
Yeah, I definitely do.
Okay.
The L-shaped ones and the
Yeah,
yeah.
I got a couple of L shapes. I go to, don't worry about Joann's for all this stuff. Go to Ace Hardware, go to Home Depot. Engineers use the same thing that you use in your sewing room.
Mm.
Okay. Okay, here's all my sharps. Here are my regular fabric scissors. Okay. Put all 4 of your fingers inside your scissor. If they don't fit, they're not your size.
Woo,
Okay.
what?
Yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah. Yeah. Put all 4 of your fingers and your scissors. If you have to do this, or if you do that or something, they're not your size. This is a 9.
Wow.
Tamari, you should be using a 10 or 13. Can you use a 13? What do you have?
How many fingers?
No, never mind. Boy, put those down.
This is not,
You need some scissors, okay?
oh
All
my-
right, we're gonna get you some more scissors. This is a 9. Put all 4 of your fingers
oh.
in the bottom of your scissor and they fit your hand.
I thought I was doing something too. When I extra sharp. I was like, yes.
No. Tamari, go try out a size 13 scissor.
Okay.
And see if it's too heavy, don't get it. But make sure all 4, because you have control. If you're like this, that's not the control you want, because you're gonna do something awkward. Okay, you have control. Sewing scissors always have the flat bottom, so you can put it on the table. Okay, take full strokes with the scissor. Don't do this. Okay, full strokes. Okay, and when you're going around a curve, here's a little tip. When you're going around a curve, start at one side of the curve, make a wide stroke, go around the curve coming down, move, coming down.
Do it again.
Okay, I'll do it again. Uh-oh, cutting on the wrong thing. See the red line? Okay, I'm gonna go around this curve. Open wide, come down and turn. Open wide, come down, turning. Open wide, come down, turning. Okay, so if you do like this, you're gonna chop it up. See? You're just gonna chop it up. And you're gonna say, oh, I screwed that up. Okay. All right, so try your scissors, invest in scissors. Now ask me how often I get my scissors sharpened.
How often?
As often as necessary. Okay. The place I bought my scissors from, they sharpen them for free because they're theirs. And every time I go fabric shopping, I look at my scissors and see if they need to be sharpened.
Okay.
If you hit a pin while you're cutting, your scissors need to be sharpened. If you work on some really rough fabric after that whole project, your scissors need to be sharpened because you've gotten burrs in the blades. You can put your finger across your blade and feel. Now, if you can't go get them sharpened, ball up a piece of tin foil, a lot, so it's a hard ball. Okay, ball up a piece of tin foil. Okay, and then just do that. Okay, you still need to get them sharpened, but it'll help. Okay, those are my fabric scissors, only fabric, only fabric. Okay, only fabric. Keep people out of your sewing room. Y'all seen all those memes about, you know, because if you use my fabric scissors, I don't care what you're using it for. If I find my fabric scissors in your hand outside my sewing room, you got to give me $50 right there on the spot.
Oh.
I don't care what it is.
So what
All
kind of
right.
scissors are those?
You know, it's a brand from this particular store
Oh,
that I
okay.
just happened to like. It says Eagle Part or something like that. It's a fabric store, Fine Fabrics, and they just happen to have this brand, and they sell them like hotcakes, and I love them. It's just a sturdy scissor. These were my first Gingers. It's a Ginger scissor, and they are now my paper scissors. I've had these since 1987.
Wow.
They're my paper scissors. These are pinking shears to keep your cotton from fraying. Did anybody use these when you were making masks? Okay, because it keeps the edges from fraying. Lining fabric, silky fabrics, cotton, any fabric that's going to, fray on the edges, use the pinking shears to cut the edges. Here are the snippers that I keep beside my machine. Okay, and I go through these. I do. I go through these, especially making bras and everything. I go through these. I just bought a new pair. Here's your little buddies.
Oh yeah.
Yep, here's your little buddies. Have a bunch of them. Let me show you mine.
Oh, wow.
Have a bunch of them. I used to work at Top Stitch, and these are the ones that she had. And when we closed, I just grabbed a little handful because they do get dull. They do get dull. And I have a fabric. Go ahead.
Sorry, about actually how to use it, because I find like sometimes I'm digging in there and popping out a stitch and then I'm able to pull it out, and then sometimes I'm attacking it from the inside, just trying to cut it out and as fast as I can.
Okay, great question. Let's do this. All right, here's your stitch. I'll open this up. This is folded. Okay. The blade is down here. Okay. The blade is down here. This is just the entry point. The red ball keeps your fabric protected on the right side. Okay. So here's the seam. We don't like this seam. We got to take it out. You want to go in with the red ball facing the project on the right side of the project. And your angle is like that. Okay. When you're in here, you want to cut like that. Now, all stitches aren't easy to just cut through like this. Okay. See, I'm just going through it and it's opening. All stitches are not like that. Sometimes you got to pick, right? You got to get this under there. This is why I have different sizes. See the difference? Okay. If I got a tiny stitch, I'm not going to get it effectively with this. I'm going to get it better with this one if I have to pick it out. Okay. So, but the red ball will protect your project from, you know, getting a hole or having a mistake. So if you go in the other way, okay, depending on your fabric, you can punch a hole in it. You can go the wrong way. See, you can do that, but you're not going to do that because you're going to have the red ball below and angle up. Got it? But if you have to pick a very delicate seam or stitch, just sit there and pick it out, just like that. There's no quick way. There's no shortcut to getting a seam out. You ever tried to take a 3-step zigzag stitch out of a piece of elastic?
Yes.
Uh-huh. Terry, I know you have, and I have too.
Yes.
Sue, have you done it yet?
No, you're giving me spoilers. Why are you doing that though? Why we getting
Because I
spoilers?
love you.
That's
I
not
love you, girl. I'm
you're
preventing
trying
you
to
from
put me
doing
into the
that.
role, Lord.
Okay, so those are all your sharps. All right, let's talk about marking tools. Where's everything? Hold on. Okay, you will have a lot of marking tools. If you've been sewing for a while, you know you're going to have a lot of marking tools because different fabrics behave differently with marking tools. Okay, this chalk, let me give you an example of everything. This piece of chalk works nicely on anything, but it doesn't go away. I can't iron it away. I can't brush it away. I can't rub it out away or anything. It's mainly for inside of the garment. And so is this chalk. Okay. I'll come back to this. All right, here's a regular pencil. I love it. A regular pencil. Make a mark on the inside of your fabric. Here's chalk pencils. They don't go away for the inside of your garment, your project, to make a mark. Okay, they don't go away. This goes away. Wherever you write, it goes away with heat, and it has its own eraser. So on some fabrics, like on a denim fabric, I can make a mark and you can use this eraser to get rid of it. Okay, so it goes away with heat. Love this one. This is Frixion. They're in my Amazon list, so you can get yourself those. Whatever you have to use, have enough marking tools. So if you're sewing different fabrics, have the tool that goes, that fabric will tolerate. Okay. If you can't use a marking tool at all, use stickers, because you have to make that mark, because you don't want to lose, you know, your ability to put your two pieces together without knowing how to put them together.
Is using regular chalk or using charcoal okay as well or not?
Yeah, you can do either one. Just make sure your fabric will tolerate it for what the purpose is. If you're marking on the inside of your fabric always, and there's no need to get rid of it, yeah, you can use that. I have a charcoal piece of chalk somewhere over here. Yeah. So, but if you have to mark on the outside, I do tailoring also, and it's straight up old school tailor tacks with needle and thread. Wide stitches to mark where I'm going next. Okay. What else? All right, pins or clips is your preference, depending on what you're sewing. The clips are very, very strong, and pins. Pins will get burrs on the tips. They will snag your fabric. So if you've got a bent pin, or you got a pin that you know doesn't have a good tip on it, put it in the jar. You see I've got some pins in there also. Put it in the jar and get rid of it. Okay. What questions do we have at this point?
But why clips? Why do you like clips?
They keep the fabric together really tight. Sometimes, depending on what it is, I'm sewing. Pins can allow the fabric to shift. So I just prefer, especially when I'm doing lingerie, I prefer the clips because it says stay right there and it does not move.
Now clips are they're relatively new. Yeah. Have you seen that? How long has it been that clips have been in for sewing? It's been
You know what, Sue? I think they were always on quilting. I think quilting had all the toys and they just weren't letting people in.
Ah.
Really. When you go to the sewing expo, baby, quilters got all the toys. They got tables that light up. Now y'all know I want a table that lights up. Right? Tamari, don't we need a table that light up? Yes.
Yeah, quilters got all the toys. So I believe quilters always had these. They just wouldn't let nobody in their little toy box. Okay. I have a YouTube, ironing versus pressing. When you are sewing a project, you need your iron set up. Okay. And this is just my mini iron. Okay. This baby, this is the mask maker right here. Y'all think it was me. It was this thing right here. And it hangs on the wall too, like that. I'm not doing all of that. But anyway, when you are sewing, you have to press as you go. When you are pre-treating your fabric for a garment or whatever it is you're making, ironing is included. If I'm making jeans, I'm going to wash my denim 2 or 3 times, just depending on how soft I want the fabric to be. And I'm going to press the denim also. I'm going to press before, I'm going to iron it out before I cut with the pattern. Take your fabric through every process that it would go through after you wash it, after you've worn it. Take it through every process before you cut it. Okay, so I'll send you the YouTube on ironing versus pressing so that you can see why we go up, down instead of like this. Up, down, and you can see why we use a pressing cloth. Okay, trust your iron, put it on the setting that it calls for. If you're on a synthetic fabric, put it on synthetic. If you're on linen and cotton, put it on linen and cotton, which is the hottest setting. Okay, trust your iron. And as the iron gets old, you'll get to know, where it needs to be. But you can ruin your garment before it's even made if you are using your iron incorrectly. Okay, now let's go back to the rotary blade and the self-healing mat. Hold on 1 second. Oh, Sharpie is also something I like to use when I'm teaching. Okay. These 3 items right here, the rotary cutter, the grid ruler, and the self-healing mat are sold together. Okay, they all come together. Number 1, because a rotary cutter needs a self-healing mat to work. Once the blade goes through the fabric, it has to connect with something soft that will help pierce the fabric accurately. So you need a self-healing mat. This is not a self-healing mat, the one next to it. This isn't a self-healing mat. I cannot cut fabric here. I can cut paper. I can cut my patterns with a rotary cutter on this part because it doesn't matter. It's just a piece of tissue paper. Okay. And I have a fabric rotary cutter and a paper rotary cutter. Same thing as my scissors. Okay. And your grid ruler has a lot of lines on it. to give you guides. You can, here's the 45-degree line so that you can cut bias tape. Okay, and the quilters will tell you how to use this rotary cutter properly. Okay. All right, you line it up straight. Okay, so this is the coolest part I learned when I first started using a rotary cutter that the quilters taught me. I'm telling you, get a quilter friend. They are the goats of sewing, for real. Get a friend that's a quilter. All right, so Doris she's in that family. Okay, so you use the mat with your grid to keep everything straight. So if this grid is lined up with the lines on the mat and your fabric's underneath here, isn't this line gonna be straight? There you go. All right, so, and when you get ready to cut, you wanna cut right where your hand is holding. You don't wanna cut up here. You wanna start here, right where your thumb is, and go up, stop. You wanna stop where your hands are. This is my paper cut. It's not cutting nicely because this is my paper one. Okay. And then move your hand and continue. And then you've got a straight cut. That's how it works. Now, say you're not cutting straight lines like that. You're cutting out a pair of pants pattern. Okay. Here's pattern weights. I bought these from Ace Hardware. Use whatever you want. I bought these from a girl on Instagram. Use those. You can use whatever. Okay, make sure your pattern weights are there. It keeps, keeps it down. And just follow your line, whatever your line is, and cut. Okay. So
Nikki,
here's my,
what is those weights called again? The ones you said you got from Ace Hardware?
Washers.
Washers. Okay.
Yeah, plumbing. They're just, yeah, washers. So this is a funny story. I'm coming out of the parking lot in some plaza. I can't remember. I probably was at the Office Depot, something. I'm coming out of the plaza, and I'm just sitting there getting ready to make a right turn out of the plaza, and a truck is coming down, and he hits something. He does something, and his load kind of. I just saw stuff going everywhere, like everything like a toolbox opened or something, right? And stuff started going everywhere, and he keeps going, and I'm like, and I'm looking to see what it was. I'm like, what is that? So I pulled out a little bit. Let me show you what it was.
Oh.
I ain't lying, y'all.
Washers.
I am not lying. Look at all this. This was what fell off the truck.
Wow.
Right? I put my car in reverse. Click, click. I get out. I am the crazy lady in the street.
Oh my God.
Like dollar bills was flying.
Yes. They're like, what the hell is she doing? Baby, you just don't know. I promise you. It was so fun. I said, what are the random odds that a truck would lose its load in front of me with washers?
Keep going.
He kept going. Man, it's like, come back. I want to see what else you got on there. But is that the funniest thing?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So there's that. So, guys, let's get all your questions out so we can wrap up. It's Friday night. Y'all don't want to spend Friday night with me.
I was just going to ask you, does it make a difference what size washers you get, or you can get any size?
You know what, sweetie? Just look at the weight that you that you want. Look at the weight. I want them to be heavy, guys. I'm going to stop recording. I'm going to stop recording at this point so it can go ahead and load.